Hello everybody and welcome to the Overwatch 2 Invasion Reveal stream. I'm your host for the day, Matt Mr. X, and we have so much exciting Overwatch 2 content to show you. And just a reminder that a lot of the stuff you're going to see today, some of it is finished, some of it is work in progress. So with that said and out of the way, with me today in our first segment from the Overwatch 2 development team, we have senior game producer Kim Horn and art director Dion Rogers. How are you guys doing today?
Good to see you again, man.
I know it's great. It's great. Me and Dion, we've been in a bunch of pieces together. Kim, we've talked for ages on Twitter. It's the first time I think we're meeting in person.
It's the first time we're seeing each other in person. Awesome.
It's great. And with you guys today, we're really gonna get into the invasion story and some of the PvE experiences people are going to have. So, Dion, we've actually signed you up as our lore expert.
Surprise!
Yeah, surprise. One of the biggest reveals, with the trailer and everything going on with Invasion is the story mission. So just give us a little bit of where are we in terms of the Overwatch story and where is the launching point for this?
Okay. Yeah, we have an amazing narrative team back at the office that helped put this stuff together. So speaking on behalf of their awesome work they've done, and Kim and I have been on this for a while. But basically these are cooperative missions that will finally move the story in the world of Overwatch forward. And so it takes place shortly after Winston's recall. Winston's been trying to get the old Overwatch agents back together. It's a bunch of bad things happening around the world. He feels we need to get back together and even meet some new friends, old friends, get together and help solve these different problems that are happening around the world, especially Null Sector has returned.
Yeah, and it's interesting, I know when we were chatting, there's some heroes that, canonically in the story haven't met each other, right? So get to see some of these moments.
The proper canon for Overwatch, we're finally moving the story forward.
Oh, yeah.
And in this version of the story, obviously this is the canon story, Lucio hasn't met Reinhardt yet, so you're going to learn exactly how these characters meet each other, what they've been up to while before this invasion happened. So it should be pretty interesting.
That's got to be so cool for you guys to be able to write and bring these moments to the game, right? How do you even start that whole process?
So part of it, we start to look at the heroes. There's some young heroes that never been in Overwatch before, and there's some older heroes that they've been there for a while, but they need some new blood to help deal with the these new enemies. The invasion that's happening, basically.
Right. I see you there, Kim.
So it's fun to see actually how these characters met each other or what they've been up to during the phase between Winston's recall and now, when the invasion starts.
So in terms of, we're able to see a lot of awesome footage here from Gothenburg, which is one of the invasion story missions. Kim, from being, on the gameplay side of this, how do you actually, build out these story missions? What were some of the fun gameplay things you guys were able to play with?
Yeah, a lot of these were originally based on the PvP maps, and we decided as we were making our story missions that we had to make something a little more different, a little more fun for PvE. So you might recognize some of these maps, but it's entirely new, different areas.
Yeah, I think that's super cool because we all know and love the Overwatch PvP maps, but you're made them for competitive, quick play purposes where these have a completely different purpose, right? In terms of story missions. So when you guys kind of went back and looked at some of those areas, where were some of the things you wanted to expand on in terms of things you probably couldn't do with PvP?
Right. So we both wanted to balance gameplay choices versus what did we want to do with the story. So for example, Rio makes a great location because it's connected to one of our heroes, Lucio. And you get to witness how he feels to see an invasion happening in his hometown, basically.
Exactly.
But we also, each mission has a slight difference in gameplay that we wanted to achieve from a cooperative perspective. And so it meant we needed to build newer maps to really balance the gameplay, plus the story moments we wanted to tell.
Yeah. There's a lot of different needs in PvE maps versus PvP. There's something like a tunnel, which would be terrifying
Yes.
in PvP. But you actually might want to duck in there to hide from an enemy.
Yeah.
Yeah, a tunnel in PvP. No, I'd be like, hey, don't put me in a tunnel in
Yeah.
PvP. You know, you got the Reinhardts with the shatters down there.
Right.
But I guess that allows you to kind of have some more fun, a little bit more creativity,
It's a
like
bit
with
more
different
open.
enemy types. Yeah.
The levels are more vast. We're able to do things that just would make PvP imbalanced. You know.
Exactly.
I mean, and they look incredible. I mean, just kind of seeing some of the footage here from Rio, just the lighting, and then this guy. I saw him in the trailer. I think he's coming up. Yeah, I mean, he looks tough. I can't
It's
imagine.
a pretty fun encounter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm super stoked to jump in and see some of these encounters and different types of things that you guys have. Kim, I gotta ask on the gameplay side, like, what was like the most fun part about being able to kind of craft into these story missions?
A lot of the fun, one of the most fun things, I think, is the dialogue in between the heroes. You get to know the heroes and their interactions a lot more. It's already a favorite thing of mine in PvP, but
Right.
we really get to throw a lot more in PvE.
Yeah, you kind of hear like all the dialogue that goes on
Yeah.
with like voice lines in the spawn room and PvP. So I mean, that's pretty cool in terms of PvE, in terms of getting more kind of story, a little bit more tidbits. In terms of level design, obviously you mentioned that the PvP spaces, some of these are based on, changed drastically. How big should we expect them? The different types of environments that you guys wanted to create.
Oh, these are a lot bigger than our
Yeah.
PvP maps, so there's a ton of stuff to
I don't
explore.
know if we have a good comparison, but they're 4 or 5 times bigger than
Yeah.
Wow.
any PvP space we've made. And just we're able to do cinematic vistas and longer sight lines, just things that just would totally
Yeah.
break the balance of PvP.
Right.
And it's so fun to see what we can do. The team's been itching to do this kind of thing for a while.
And then I guess with the longer sight lines and stuff like that, like it allows you to kind of play with the different enemy types,
Yes.
right? That you could
Exactly.
see during that. Like anyone we should look out for that we don't want to go up against.
There's an artillery unit that
Right.
he loves to stay away from the player. He's really far away, so using your team comp to balance, like, who needs to deal with the artillery that's further away versus the grunt is pretty dangerous up close. There's this fun balance of the level design
Right.
plus the units' tactical abilities, plus the powers that our
this.
Overwatch heroes have. Yeah.
I mean, the art that we got from this. I mean, this looks that looks like Gothenburg to me. I'm not an expert,
Home
but
to Torbjorn.
yeah, home to Torbjorn. I mean, this looks super cool. Is this, I guess, this is some of the artwork and like kind of in design, right? Like this looks like a factory, weapon cannon in Gothenburg.
You'll find out.
You have to play to find out about this guy. But we're trying some new stuff. Torbjorn gains a few new turrets during the story
Oh.
mission, so
Some little tools, little tech advance there
Yes.
from Torb. Yeah, I mean, the level of detail that you guys put in is just tremendous for this types of content. What is like some of the? And I guess this is a null sector kind of coming in, right? This is kind of like. Do you know where this is?
this is in Rio. So this
Oh.
is what a contest artist named Peter Lee worked on this piece, and
Wow.
we usually try to kind of a little script of what we would like to see within a space. This one's interesting because it started off at night, but we kind of changed the setting, and this is a glimpse of some of the other null sector units. They return fully upgraded and
They're ready to go.
yeah, they're ready to go. Their command ship. This was an iteration by Al.
This has to be so fun to work on.
Yes, it is.
Because you have obviously that moment with Winston's recall, right? And then after that, you guys kind of have an idea where it's going.
It's been a long
but-
time
Yeah.
coming, but
Yeah.
it feels so good to finally just we're answering that question that we created a lot of questions. And we're creating some new questions, but we're getting some answers finally now.
Right.
So it's fun to see this an objective in Toronto here.
Yeah, I think fans are going to be blown away once they see some of the stuff that you guys have been working on. It's been incredible. One of the other things is actually event missions. So story missions, they look amazing, really kind of build on, obviously, the lore, the story of Overwatch. Event missions. So these are, story missions are now the only PvE thing happening.
Right.
Event missions are also coming in.
Right.
Can you explain to me a little bit about what event missions are?
Yeah, event missions are new. They're coming with season 6. They're the highly replayable, repeatable content that you're meant to play after you finish the story mission.
So is this canonical? Is this not like
a little bit of both.
little bit of both.
You
if
might
we want it to be?
we might have a canonical mission in there. We might have
Oh.
one that's not. I would say the first one coming out with season 6 is in that gray area.
Yeah,
Like, maybe not.
And I've seen this location before. This looks
Yes.
like a little bit of
Yeah.
an expansion on King's
Kings
Row.
Row,
Yeah.
yes. I think some crafty players have seen this in advance.
Oh,
Yeah.
There's sneaky players
Yeah, I
online.
think they've peeked through some cracks.
But it's something we always
some
wanted to
stuff
do
out.
is expand on our PvP maps and build more, give another option. There was a lot of ideas about this. So this is a new branching path that we used during the event mission
Right.
Yeah, I
in
mean,
Kings Row.
yeah, the
Yeah.
lighting, everything here looks tremendous.
Yeah.
And so, what is the gameplay changes between a story mission and an event mission? Like, how should people expect those to play differently?
We have a whole bunch of challenges with story missions. They'll change every week. Also, the hero roster you can choose from will be different. So the gameplay will change from
Some
week to
gameplay
week. Your
modifiers, right?
objectives,
Yeah.
Oh,
your challenges.
That'll be
yeah.
super cool. So, like a gameplay modifier each week,
Yeah.
with some different like new heroes in the mix, right? Like,
Right.
oh, that should be super fun. Just in terms of like replayability and
Yeah.
this is Underworld, right? This
Right.
is kind of like the
first one is called Underworld.
the first one, and some same enemies as story or different.
Same enemies, but you'll fight them in new ways.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I won't get any tips and tricks today in terms of how to deal with that. These look actually super awesome, and I love the fact that they're like, you mentioned like replayability, right? In terms of like week to week coming back with a new hero roster,
Right.
Different types of modifiers, I assume, with
Yeah.
different enemy modifiers or buffs
Right.
or something like that. That'll be super fun. What was the best part about working on this type of stuff? Is it like getting creative with the modifiers and things like that? Like,
Yeah, definitely. And then just figuring out how to make the gameplay really fun when you're playing over and over again. It's something we play like every day, and it always feels different.
yeah, I guess was the philosophy going in Underworld, was it to build something that's like highly replayable, like
Yeah,
week on week?
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's yeah. I mean, and then to have something like that, I think obviously on top of the story missions,
Right.
I think is awesome because people were wondering like, I'm going to do the story, but I want to do like more, and I want to do it all the
Yeah.
time with
Right.
the different difficulties there. And then is this like one difficulty or is it multiple difficulties? How does that work?
There's
We will-
multiple
yeah.
difficulties.
Yeah.
What's cool too is it was fun to revisit the classic PvP map and expand on it. And in PvP, we do place a lot of story, right?
Yeah.
A lot of players pick up on a lot of things we do in the PvP maps that are canon to the story of Overwatch. So Kings Row made a lot of sense to do it as an event
Right.
mission because there's Mondada and
King's Row.
Yeah, it's
too.
King's Row
Right.
too, right?
Who's going to be upset about going back
Right.
to King's Row?
Right.
Yeah, so a lot of our PvP maps have a lot of story in it, and this is what's so great about finally doing this co-op story missions to help answer some of those tidbits of story that we used to place
Yeah.
Yep.
around the PvP map. So
Totally.
that was a lot of fun just digging into that.
Yeah.
And I just love like the nighttime scary kind
Right.
of look that Kings Row has,
Yeah.
over the top Underworld. But another piece of content that's PvE solo playable is Hero Masteries. So I found out about this a little bit ago, and I was like, this looks super cool.
Yeah.
I'm terrible at it. So explain to me a little bit about Hero Masteries.
It's solo content. You're meant to play, by yourself. Maybe it's late at night and you just don't want to stop playing, but it's meant so you can try out new heroes. Maybe a hero you haven't played very much or very often, want to get better at, and you can kind of play on your own and learn techniques and play some challenges.
Yeah, and I see whoever was doing this one pretty good. I see the Winston Primal Rage tech, right? You jump, then Primal, and then be able to knock players around.
Yeah, and story-wise, Winston basically created a simulation room within Gibraltar, Watchpoint Gibraltar, for the heroes basically to hone their skills, to test
Right.
out, just training. It's basically a training simulator or a holographic room that Winston created for our heroes to train, and we use that as a reason why players can train and get better at a hero, or even use it as a way to start learning a new hero, a hero that you haven't played before.
Yeah, that's super awesome. You guys have like woven like the story and the universe into like hero masteries, right? And
Right.
like, it just exists as another thing like in the arcade, right? Like this is
Right.
kind of
No, there's a door in Gibraltar that leads to this place. You know.
Right.
That's super cool. And then, how did you guys go about? No, I think Kim, you were telling the story about like how this kind of came to be, right?
Well, how it started is a few of us on the team were saying, you know, our kids are starting to want to play Overwatch, and we wanted a safe space for them to learn how to play that, you know, isn't really in the live game.
It isn't in ranked play, not learning, not learning with how to play with us in
Yes.
live, and yeah, I guess well, one, thank you for creating this space for them to learn and figure out how to play.
Yeah.
And then two, I mean, I think it's an awesome tool to be able to for players to train, right? To be able to kind of learn different heroes outside of just playing them in ranked.
Exactly. If there's a hero that's your favorite, that's great, but now you can play someone new and maybe kind of get to learn the play style, find out if you actually like, you know, healing people.
Finally learned to res.
Right.
Every Mercy should have to do a minimum of 10 hours on the course before ranked.
It's so fun to see other people play, you know, and what they do compared to your own trials. During
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I think this is super cool. Then, what should we expect when Hero Masteries launch?
So we'll have 5 heroes coming out with Season 6 mid-cycle. There'll be different heroes you can play. Some will unlock different weeks. And there'll be scoring, so you can compare your score with your friends.
Oh, that'll be cool. Like a little bit of like speedrunning type of thing, right?
Yeah,
Where
definitely.
you're able to go in, kind of maybe plot a way through the course where, hey, this is going to be the best course of action, right?
Yes.
I assume the coins obviously boost your score, and after that,
And so does time.
Yeah, and then this is the Mercy one. Is you can tell that one looks like it's a little bit harder than the other ones. That one looked like there was different enemies, right? That you're able. Is it different enemy types than other modes?
Yeah, so we made a whole new custom set of bots for this mode, and some are specific to certain heroes. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of new stuff to learn.
Yeah, that's awesome that you guys like gamified this.
Yeah.
Hey, it's a kind of like a cool lore piece. It's a little bit of like training to fight, null sector, and then obviously gamified it into like a solo PvE type of play.
Right.
I learned so much playing the Mercy course. I was surprised at the things you could do with Mercy.
Yeah.
Coming out of the hero mastery.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of stuff, right, in the arcade, like, you think of, like, Doom parkour and different things that, like, try to help you with, like, the movement, and, yeah, you can already tell that, so many players, whether they're new or old, are gonna either learn new different types of skills that you can do with some of these heroes, or just, get better at them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like Mercy, like being able to obviously jump from platform to platform. This person's cheating a little bit using Valve, right? But like trying to do this without it, right? And kind of learning like how to kind of launch yourself from platform to platform could definitely improve tons of players' games.
Yeah, exactly. Each hero will have a different difficulty course. So as you change the difficulty, you'll get an entirely different course to play.
I'm super stoked. I think you can use this as a really cool like warm up tool. A late night after a long day of ranked. Jump into this, try and set a high score. Being able to kind of show off to the rest of your friends. Pretty sweet. I'm even more excited than I was before we started, right? About all the PvE stuff coming in Invasion. What would you guys like to say to the community? What are you guys most excited for them to get their hands on?
Yeah, I'm finally excited to just get the story missions out there. The team has worked really hard on this, and finally moving the canon of Overwatch forward, the world and these heroes.
Yep.
This is what we just loved it, and glad it's finally making its way.
Yeah, we've poured a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this content. We've been playing it for years, and we're so excited to finally be able to play with our friends and everyone in the community.
Yeah, I'm excited to jump into the story, see all the awesome cutscenes, kind of learn more a little bit about where the Overwatch story is going. But thank you guys for both joining me here today in the first part of this. And when we come right back, we're going to have Game Director Aaron Keller and Daniel McGowan to talk about Flashpoint coming with Invasion. Stay tuned, you don't want to miss that.
CSIS Unit 37. Toronto is under attack by Null Sector.
There's something different about Null Sector this time.
They've taken over most of the city and they're rounding up Omnics. They need our help.
People are answering Vincent's recall. There's new blood on the team, and we have so much to teach them.
If we can stop Null Sector, maybe we can save the city.
Coming through!
Been a while, Vivian.
As if I didn't have enough problems already.
So we fly up there, smash through anything that gets in our way, and what's another business?
I hate to interrupt the moment, but I'm picking up reports of more attacks in other cities.
If it's a fight they want, I say let's give it to them.
Engage. Target marked.
Time to create peace with bullets. Greetings.
Oh, yeah! Boom!
The world is counting on us.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Matt, Mr. X, and this time I am joined by Game Director Aaron Keller and Principal Environment Artist Daniel McGowan to take a deeper look into some of the other things coming in Invasion. How you guys doing?
Awesome. So good. Thanks for having us.
No, I mean, I'm super excited to jump into this. Some of the PvE stuff we talked about earlier was super exciting, and then for me, I love PvP. So first, I want to go into player progression, Aaron. I know a lot of people have been talking about it online, kind of, what should player progression look like. You may have a little bit of an update.
I think I can update players on
why
player
not?
progression system. Yeah, so this is going to be coming this August. And our player progression system is a little bit different than the one that we had in the original Overwatch, which was just a player level system. This time what we really want to do is we want to recognize people playing the game, but also recognize the way that they play the game. So as people jump in and start playing in almost any of our game modes, they'll start earning experience in this new system. And what they do is they earn it per hero. And we'll be tracking their play style through a lot of different categories. So it might be things like games played, or damage done, damage mitigated, and healing done. And as you do that, you'll level up that particular category and earn an emblem for that hero. And you can continue to earn more emblems for your heroes. And as you do that, they will upgrade your hero's level. And so you'll start getting these badges for your heroes. And the interesting thing about it is you can go into your career profile, check out the progression section, and kind of get a story for the way that your particular hero plays the game. An interesting detail here is that we don't cap the amount of experience that you can get in any category. And the reason why we do that is we don't want to incentivize you to play it in any particular way in order to fill out your player progression system in a certain way. We really want it to be about your own play style and to have everybody's own player progression board to be a unique reflection of the way that they play that hero. And then on top of all that, we're going to be rewarding name cards through this system. And so as you progress through the different categories, let's say you're playing Reinhardt, you'll unlock a Reinhardt name card. But then as you level Reinhardt up more, you're going to unlock higher level versions of those name cards. It's the first time we've really had a customizable name card like this.
Yeah, I mean, that's really awesome for people to be able to show off, their individual heroes, right? You level a certain hero, or you're, playing just one hero all the time, right? You can show people, a name card that kind of signifies how good you are and how much you've leveled up that hero. I want to talk about Flashpoint. So I know with the trailer that launched, everybody was talking about Flashpoint. Before we jump into like some of the details of the mode, tell us a little bit about just kind of the basics. How does Flashpoint play?
Sure. So yeah, Flashpoint is our newest game mode. It's coming during Overwatch 2 Invasion. It takes place on some of the largest maps that we've ever built
look awesome.
for Overwatch. And the way that you play the game mode is the objective for each team is to be the first team to score 3 points. And the way you score a point is you fully capture an objective on the map. When you first start in Flashpoint, you'll be in the spawn room and we'll randomly choose one of the objectives on the map. And when the spawn doors open, everybody runs out. They go to that first capture point. The capture points work similar to the way they do in Control. Your team can gain ownership of it very quickly, but then you have to tick all the way up to 100% before you fully own the thing and score a point. The interesting thing about the mode, though, is this is where everything kind of changes. So when a team caps that, what'll happen is we'll randomly select one of the remaining control points and activate that one. These maps, like I said, they're really big. So now you'll have these 2 teams typically traveling in a parallel path to the next capture point.
This looks incredible, by the way.
This is an amazing, amazing point. And so yeah, so you'll go to a point like that, but you'll be traveling next to the enemy team. So you have all these options. Do you want to interact with the team there? Do you want to try to get an early pick or maybe an early team fight win so you can capture the next point easier? Do you maybe just want to try to protect positioning? So maybe you're just going to try to get to the next point quickly in order to get high ground on it and force the enemy team to kind of pop in a less advantageous route. And then you'll fight over the next control point, and you'll keep doing that until one of the teams gets 3 points, and they'll win the match.
Yeah, and I got to say, Daniel, the art looks amazing. How difficult was it tackling? Like, these maps are massive, like truly massive. How difficult was it tackling, like, hey, we want to keep that Overwatch level of detail, style across these large maps? I mean, just look at some of the landscapes we're going to have to play with.
Yeah, well, first it took a whole team effort and a lot of passionate people, but we really tried to push the bar as much as we could with these maps, right? They're much larger than any other maps that we've built to date. And it actually allows us to bring in a lot more themes, right? So we can push more narrative. We can show you elements of that culture that you've never seen before, right? For example, in Junk City, you might even be able to see where the demolitionist faction reside, right? The center arena, the hammer mill. So, yeah, we put in a lot of love, and getting it to all fit was very tricky. But we didn't want to drop that Blizzard quality bar at all. So.
It's got to be really cool to be able to kind of explore, we have Junkertown, right? But that's just a pretty linear path, right? The game tells you where the cart goes, you follow the cart. Now with these wide open landscapes, it must be super fun to jump in with the team and ideate on how a really kind of Junk City looks, right?
Exactly. We the fans love Junkertown, the developers, we love Junkertown, and we have some great cinematics, and we really wanted to explore this fantasy a bit deeper. And so we had to ask ourselves some really cool questions about, we know what the town looks like, but what if the city, if you're in the heart of it, right on top of the Omnium core, what would those vistas look like? And I think we came up with some pretty good solutions.
Yeah, and in terms of gameplay, Aaron, how do the points, different, right? Obviously we have Control as is now, but now with these large maps, right, you can create different types of points in between those points, connecting them. What should players expect?
Yeah, so these maps are totally different than anything that we've built before. And they're a big non-linear space, and they're also a quasi-symmetrical layout as well. And so there's a lot of challenges with building these maps. As I said earlier, they each have 5 control points. And when we develop new game modes, especially game modes for quick play ranked and for esports players to play on, one of our top goals is to make sure that they're competitive, that they're balanced, and that they're fair. So every one of the control point areas in these maps have a symmetrical layout. It works similar to the way we do Control. So each team has the same entrances to it. They have the same amount of cover, the same access to high ground, and even the same run times from their spawn room. And we do that very intentionally to make the map fair. But But then on top of that, when you have all 5 of these in one big space, as you start moving further away from these points, then the map starts getting less symmetrical, and it's more about all the connecting routes that you have between the space, because sometimes you might be going from one of the capture points that's closest to the enemy team side, and you're pulling back to yours. Or sometimes you might be in one corner going all the way across to the other corner of the map, and it's a really long journey. And one of our priorities is to always make it so that players kind of recognize where they are in the map and recognize where they're supposed to go in the map. And so as you move from one point to the other and you see that next objective, I think that we spend a lot of time in that flow along the streets and to that next point of interest that you're supposed to go to. And those are all like a lot of the challenges. There's a lot more that I could talk about with building this particular game mode.
Yeah, and we get clips here of Suravasa, one of the maps here for Flashpoint. Daniel, I gotta ask, like when you kind of get this design right of a map and how it flows. When you guys jump in, like how do you help, in terms of art, like having players identify like where they are? Because like Aaron mentioned, I mean, some of these clips that we have of Suravasa, I mean, are beautiful, but it is such a large, expansive map.
Yeah, it's tricky. We have to be very careful with our sight lines for performance and gameplay and things like that. And so what we did is we designed into each of the points very large recognizable elements that you can see from basically anywhere, right? So the center market has a giant tower that you can use to center yourself and find out where you are, right? The Omnic Temple goes up into the sky. So we've been very conscious about giving the players something on the horizon that they can always use to orient themselves within the map.
Yeah, I'm super stoked for this mode, especially once we see high-level teams and players go in, and how do they decide to play it, right? Do you have like a really sick tracer player who maybe can like lurk in some of those like parts of the map, right, and try and get those pickoffs, or maybe you decide to run all the way to the other point and set up with like Torbjorn and like try and like really kind of like bunker down with a Baptiste. How did this game mode come to life, Aaron?
That's a great question. And like to just kind of like touch on what you were talking about there too, since these maps are so big, there are so many little cool locations that you can go to. And I think that like a core skill for an FPS shooter is map knowledge. Yeah. It's not just about aiming. Overwatch's not just about also team play and ability usage. It's about learning the map. These maps are a lot bigger than anything we've built before. So we think there's probably going to be a longer tail to this learning curve. So it might be a little bit more intimidating to jump into a map like this, but at the same time, I think that there's this process that you get to go through of learning it and getting better and better over time on one of these maps.
Yeah, I think you'll see lots of really cool stuff. Like what's the best way to rotate from one point to the other, right? If you know a team is spawning in one spot, is this the best route to take, or maybe you take a little bit of a safer route? Is this the other one to kind of work on? I think there's a ton of, when we see it with Push, right? Push came out, was played a certain way, and then over time that's like changed, I think, with a mode like this. And I mean, you see where you can fight in all these different awesome locations. I think it'll definitely change over time.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, sorry, jumping back to like how we developed this mode too. I think that developing new game modes for Overwatch is something that we have started to recognize as core to running the live game. And if you think about the way players experience our game, you select a hero, you load into a map that plays a particular game mode. And all of our maps are like that. All of our maps are built for very specific game modes. And when you have that sort of constraint on you, when you develop a new payload map, for example, there's only going to be a certain amount of things that you do for a map like that. They're very linear. They're cut into 3 sections. They have a certain amount of like choke points and run back times from the spawn rooms. And so to create an experience that feels a lot different to players on a map requires a new game mode. And so that was our intention here, was to not just build some new maps, but to start evolving Overwatch into the future by building new game modes. These are the sorts of things that we would like to continue to do for the game. And when you start looking at what our game can be years down the line, as we're releasing things like story missions, we're releasing new heroes, new game modes, new maps, and 3-5 years in the future, Overwatch is a much bigger, much more expansive, and much more evolved experience than you have today.
Yeah, and I think just seeing some of these locations and like building upon the story, like we were talking about, in the past in PvE, right? Where like expanding Kings Row and like obviously we have a Junkertown map, and then see like New Junk City. It's got to be fun, Daniel, for you guys to look and be like, okay, what can we expand on, right? And show more of that side of things.
Absolutely. In Junk City, for example, you can actually see Junkertown in the vista.
Oh, that's cool.
Right? We've tried to give some kind of connection to those and call back to the original map because it was so influential. But we can't talk about Junk City without talking about India first. And that one, we built that as an assault map originally. But when we cut to CP, we decided, it'd be a perfect opportunity for Flashpoint because we really wanted to represent, that location in our world. So, that was the first one we built, and we learned a lot, which we took to Junk City. Right.
Yeah, that's super cool because I've seen Suravasa firsthand, and just the locations, are beautiful. We just kind of had it on the big screen behind me, but man, it looks so good. And all the locations are so different from each other. I think that's one of the things that I really kind of take when I see some of the footage and watch is that every point in this feels different, but then also every game also feels different, right? Because as you were mentioning before, you're kind of traveling through different parts of the map that you may not experience all the time.
Yeah, because the points are selected randomly in this game mode. And so you might start in the far right corner and then pull back to the near left corner. But sometimes you're going to go in a completely different order. So there's a lot of combinatorics in learning how to not just play the mode, but in learning like, hey, if we're going to be going from this point to that point, what's the right route to take? What are we going to do if the enemy team does this? Or, hey, we think we saw that Brigitte alone over there. Maybe we take the opportunity to go over there and try to get an easy pick for us. And there's a lot of different things that you can be thinking about and doing just as you're learning how to play the mode and learning how to move around the map.
And I think we see it when I know we get some of these clips at the start of these, right, with the top-down POV of just how expansive, how big these maps are. Daniel, kind of like, what should people expect at home, like for how the sizes of a map like this?
I think people are going to be really impressed. These maps are so big, we're able to pack more theming and more narrative into these than any of our other maps, right? You're going to see things like Omnic temples, marketplaces, refineries, palaces, gardens, you name it. We're all over. So
I hope my teammates don't get distracted going from point to point with all the story and lore you guys have packed into some of these.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Hey, the point.
It's like being in the Hanamura arcade, right?
Right,
It's hard to get out of that spawn room. But a lot of these maps, they are connected to our lore. Suravasa, Mandata's learning center was built near Suravasa, and Mandata was Zenyatta's teacher. And so we have a lot of the maps that we are building now, a lot of the maps in Overwatch 2, even though we might not have communicated it yet to players, they're all involved in the story that we want to be telling starting in Season 6 with our story missions, but going into the future. So I'm kind of excited for people to, later down the line, jump into one of these places and be like, oh, I see how that was connected. That's really neat.
Right, and to just see, just the expansiveness, right, and just how big the, locations are that we're going to have here for Flashpoint. Daniel, how complex was this to do? Realistically, that had to be really difficult.
Yeah, it was a lot of back and forth. We had some really good support from our tech art and our engineers, and we had to solve a lot of development problems, right? Getting everything to fit in memory. You can, teleport from one end of the map to the other at any given moment, right? With certain characters, and so.
My guy, the scale man, he's out.
Yeah, there he is.
Out.
Yep. See behind the curtain a little bit,
You have to have those, or you build something just way too big.
It's so incredible to see this stuff just that turns into what we just saw.
Yeah, and you can see we stick as close as we can to the original blockout to maintain the integrity of that gameplay, right? Because that's where the fun is found, right? And we want to make sure that we amplify that, not distract or break.
Yeah, it's really gameplay first, right? And then how can we go about and support that with the art and whatnot.
I like that.
Yeah, gameplay first.
Yeah,
that was cool.
Way to go.
Man, thank you guys so much for joining me here today. Flashpoint, player progression, both look amazing. Anything you want to say before we head out?
Yeah, I mean, one, thank you for having us. Thank you for letting us talk about Overwatch 2 Invasion. It's a season that we're like so incredibly excited about. And it's not just because of Flashpoint or the progression system or the story missions or hero mastery. We have a new hero coming out that season. We have an event mission for people to play. We have another event later in the season that's coming. There's like so much as a part of this season. Yeah. We're so excited for it. So yeah, I think we could probably talk about this all day if you let us. So thank you.
Oh man, I still look at the scenery behind this. I mean, Saravasa is going to be a whole lot of fun to play.
Yeah.
Dana, anything you want to say before we go?
I just can't wait to get this in front of people and play this with my friends and hear what the community thinks.
Yeah, I think they're going to be super excited to be able to jump into PvE, PvP, all the awesome content coming in Overwatch 2 Invasion. But that's going to be it for us for the Overwatch 2 Invasion reveal stream. Thanks so much for joining us. Also, Season 5 out now. Jump in and play it. Get ready. August 10th kicks off Invasion. We'll see you there.
Everyone excited to play Role Heroes? Emily's been working on this campaign for ages. I can't wait to meet Queen Emily. Do you have your characters ready?
Come face me!
Shall we get started?
It goes to 11.
Stick with me, and fortune will follow.
I've never been more ready for adventure.
Who's on fire? I am. My arm is in rough shape after that last fight. I can't believe we still haven't had any random encounters. You roll this time. My dice are cursed. I can't face the Demon Lord with rubbish gear.
Let me show you how it's done.
We must press our advantage and seize victory.
You can't stop me! Hammer down!
Look at me go! Tick, tick, boom! I know we defeated the Demon Lord, but can we keep playing?
I'm on fire! My ultimate is ready! I am unstoppable!
You are only human.
Time for mischief and magic.
Experience always wins in the end.
Everyone brought their sunscreen!
Oh, yeah! Whoa! Bend it like Lucio.